With all of the Hunger Games hype, I thought it would be fun to rank every single book and movie in the franchise. This is a video that I've thought about making for years, and it seemed like the perfect time to do it because you guys seem to be loving the Hunger Games videos. For this ranking, we have 5 movies and 4 books, so we'll start with number 9, my least favorite, and end with number 1, my favorite. Just for the record though, I love every single installment in this franchise, but something has to be at the bottom. Also, there will not be any spoilers for the new movie, so if you haven't seen it yet, you're safe to watch this. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. It will greatly help the channel with the algorithm. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, and you can also follow me on all of my social medias, all of which are linked down below, and all of which house similar content that I make here on this channel. Now, let's get into the ranking.
Oh, Joy, why don't you join us?
At number 9, I'm putting the movie Mockingjay Part 2. It's my least favorite piece of media in the Hunger Games franchise. I feel as though it was hurt a bit by the novel being split into 2 parts. Part 1 had the benefit of this, as it started where the story was supposed to start in the book, and then ended with a cliffhanger just like the second book and movie. But this made Part 2 feel as though the plot started out of nowhere. This also made the beginning feel incredibly rushed because it basically picked up in the middle of the story. Actually no, not basically, it did pick up in the middle of the book's plot. I think that's the main reason why this is at the bottom of the list for me, because other than that, I did enjoy the film, and I thought the ending gave us a satisfying conclusion to the series. Number 8, the movie Mockingjay Part 1. This was by far the slowest film in the series, as it has significantly less action, especially when compared to Part 2, which had non-stop action. However, I found myself enjoying the politics of the war more than what Finnick called the 76th Hunger Games in Part 2. Watching the Capitol and District 13 going back and forth with their promos, their interviews, and their smear campaigns was so interesting. To go along with that, I also really enjoyed seeing Katniss find her voice in the rebellion, which we didn't really see in Part 2, she kinda just moped around there. So overall, it's better than Part 2, but it's still at the bottom end of the franchise for me. At number 7, I'm putting the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes book. Surprisingly enough, I actually prefer the movie over the book. I think the book was super interesting, but it was definitely rushed in the 3rd act, especially when compared to the fast pace of the first 2 acts. The book just didn't draw me in as much as the other books and some of the other films did. Overall, it's my least favorite book in the series, which honestly might be partially because of all of the nostalgia I have for the original 3 books, but it's my list, so I'm going with how I feel. Again though, I enjoyed every installment in this franchise, including this one, but this one just falls short when looking at the books and movies I ranked above it. Number 6, the Hunger Games movie. The series as a whole owes a lot to this film because I think it did bring a lot of buzz to the book series and franchise as a whole. However, I'm just not a fan of the way director Gary Ross approached the film. There are a lot of really weird cuts throughout the movie that just didn't match up. Like, I get he was trying to be creative, but I'm just not a fan, and I think they were trying to do too much. I also think the shaky cam technique was way overused, and the way the film was cut just made it seem like too much was going on. And clearly, I'm not the only one that felt this way because Ross was not asked to continue the series, instead being replaced by Francis Lawrence, who I far prefer in the director's chair. With that being said, I do think it's better than the 2 Mockingjay films, especially with how creative they got to show off the world of Panem from other points of view besides just Katniss's. The movie also sets the groundwork for what's to come, which is another reason why it's above the 2 Mockingjay films. This film walked so that the rest of the franchise could run, and you have to give it credit for that. Number 5 is the Mockingjay book. The Mockingjay book has been ragged on ever since it was released, but I've always defended it for the most part. Obviously, some people's complaints were warranted, like how pointless it made certain plot lines earlier in the series, and the ridiculousness of Katniss's mission to go kill Snow, all of which definitely pushed it down a bit on my ranking, but I also really loved elements of this novel. I love the character development of Joanna and Peeta, and of course the slow realization both Katniss and we as readers get about how evil President Coin really is. Looking at the series as a whole though, it's my least favorite of the original 3 books. At number 4, I have the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes movie. I was surprised that this movie ranked as high as it did, but it surpassed my expectations. The movie taking place in the Capitol was really intriguing, and the way the film depicted the Capitol was perfectly handled. The Hunger Games themselves were thrilling and really utilized every second they had, seeing as the 10th Hunger Games were a lot shorter than the others. And honestly, I think that the movie greatly adapted elements the book struggled with, like the pacing at the end of the movie. I think some of the music in the movie also gave the film a fresh angle that the other movies in the series didn't have, and I think that's a big reason why it's pushed up a bit. I've definitely been playing a few songs over and over on Spotify since seeing the film, though admittedly not all of the songs in the movie struck gold, but for the most part I think they did. Overall, it's my second favorite of the 5 Hunger Games films, and number 4 overall with all of the books included as well, which honestly, I did not expect whatsoever. Number 3, The Hunger Games book. This is what started it all, and it will always have a special place in my heart for that. It's what sucked me in to make me a Hunger Games fan, and I never left. The way the book sets the world of Panem up is one of the reasons why this series was so successful, not to mention introducing us to so many amazing characters and making us either fall in love with or hate them. I was actually forced to read this book because it was part of my summer reading going into 9th grade, and let me tell you, it was the best book I ever read in school, and I wrote the best book report I had ever written. I think there's also a nostalgia factor that went into its placement here, but I'm pretty sure that most people would rank it around this spot as well, if not a little bit higher. At number 2, I'm putting the Catching Fire movie. This is by far my favorite movie in the series, and personally, I don't even think it's close. This was the first film that Francis Lawrence directed, and he knocked it out of the park. I think this film adapted the book better than any movie in the series, choosing all of the right things to leave in and cutting all of the things that didn't need to be there, which is obviously the perfect formula for adapting a book to the big screen. There's also something about the coloring of this film that just draws me in. The saturation has such high levels, and it really intensifies the magnitude of certain situations, especially when it's filmed in IMAX. Overall, it's just an incredible movie, and is by far my favorite film in the series. And finally, number 1, we have the Catching Fire book. I think one of the reasons why the Catching Fire movie is the best film in the series is largely because it's based on the best book. This novel is just so good. It perfectly addresses the events of the last novel, giving us a nice continuation of Peeta and Katniss' fake romance. It continues all of the characters' struggles after the 74th Hunger Games, and most of all, it introduces us to so many amazing characters. Finnick, Joanna, Beetee, Wiress, Mags, and the list goes on. The slow build-up to the rebellion was also really well handled, and the pacing itself had an incredible balance. It is my favorite piece of media in the entire Hunger Games franchise. And that's my ranking. Let me know in the comments below how you would rank all of the books and movies, and let me know what you thought of my own personal ranking. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. That's all I have for you guys today though, so I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. You can follow me on Instagram to see more of my personal life, like my cute dog Loki, and some behind the scenes movie flame stuff. I also do similar content on TikTok and Twitter that I do here on this channel, so if you like what I do here, check them out. All the handles are right below me, and links are in the description. Over here are my wonderful patrons. If you want to be featured on the next video, plus get a few other perks, become a patron today. As always, if you liked the video, hit that like button and subscribe, and look out for more great Movie Flame videos on the way.